Forbade my partner from taking our child to visit her family in India, haunted by past threats and ignoring her pleas. I'm a 37-year-old man, and for the past 5 years I've been living abroad with my partner, who's 25, and our 4-year-old child. I love her more than I can probably even admit is healthy. She's my whole world, my focus, my drive, every reason behind what I do. Above everything, I want her happy, safe, and as far away as possible from anyone who might want to hurt her. Recently, she told me she wants to visit her family in India. She wants our little one to meet her grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, the whole extended family. And I get it, I can see why that's important to her. But I couldn't let her go. It sounds terrible when I say it aloud, I know how it comes across, controlling, obsessive, even villainous maybe. But the truth is, I can't get the past out of my head. I can't forget the people who tried to hurt her when she was pregnant, the humiliation she endured, and the sheer chaos they brought into our lives. My instinct is to protect her, even if those decisions are unpopular, even if they're hard. She calls me overprotective, unfair, and controlling, and maybe she's not wrong. But there's this line where my love for her and my need to control anything that could harm her or our child just blurs together. Sometimes I honestly can't tell the difference. So here I am, stuck between what she needs and what I feel. I love her so much that I just can't let anyone, even her family, threaten the life, the safety, and the peace we've built together. Update 1. Yes, I was 32 and she was 20 when she got pregnant. She's my brother-in-law's younger sister. The first time our paths crossed was at a wedding when she had just turned 18. There was never any grooming, no secret countdown, nothing shady about how we met. I was a virgin then, just like any normal guy with urges, but I refused to act on them until I was certain she was the one. When that certainty finally settled in, that's when we chose to be together, and together, we lost our virginity, no regrets, nothing shameful. I've dated women my own age before, but most cheated on me. I wanted commitment, loyalty, someone I could actually trust with my heart. I never lay with anyone because I couldn't picture a future in their arms. But her, she was different. Confident, independent, and, to be honest, she made the first move in bed. Yet somehow, I ended up being painted as the villain in everyone's eyes. When she found out she was pregnant, her family's reaction was unimaginable. They threw her out, no bag, no money, not even a bite of food. There she stood, abandoned for 18 hours, shivering and starving. I was overseas at a business conference when she managed to call me, her voice trembling as she told me everything. I dropped everything, booked the first flight I could, and prayed through every mile, prayed for her and our unborn child. Arriving at the airport, I finally saw her. She was haunted by exhaustion, fear, and hunger. I felt utterly helpless. The woman I loved, carrying my child, deserved everything, but all she had to her name was fear and an empty stomach. I still can't erase the memory of her face, panic, fear, and deep, deep shame. How could I have failed her like this? That night, I brought her to a hotel, then immediately found her a secure apartment in a safe neighborhood. I cooked for her myself, shopped for groceries, and stayed awake at night, driven by worry for her health. I never missed a single prenatal checkup when I could help it. But even then, family troubles only grew worse. Her relatives came around pretending to reconcile, and the moment I let down my guard, they attacked me. The beating left me with fractures so painful I couldn't walk. My own family refused to help me. I'd never felt so cornered and alone. The guilt, fear, and anger for everything she and our child endured, they haunt me every single day. I know, half those shouting creep and predator would have nothing to say if a 33-year-old woman dated a 21-year-old guy. But because I'm the man, suddenly I'm the monster. Let's get real, I didn't choose her for her age. I chose her for her fiery spirit, strong, stubborn, fiercely independent. Anyone who thinks she could be controlled truly doesn't know her. When the world collapsed around us, I was there. I fought for her. I took care of her. I bled, I was broken, I was terrified and helpless, and that's what real commitment looks like. I risked my own health, my safety, even my career to protect her. So before anyone throws around words like creep or control freak, maybe remember, while you sat safe behind your screens, I was willing to risk everything for the mother of my child. Judge me if you want. I'd rather face the truth of my own reality than live by your opinions. Now, I truly want to know, am I really the Kamina, given everything that's happened in the past? Edit 1. Her parents had her fairly late in life. Her brother, my brother-in-law, is 41 now. They'd always been distant with her, hardly involved in her daily life. Mostly, they sent her to boarding school so they could focus on their own careers and personal lives. That emotional distance meant they never understood her independence or paid attention to her feelings. Update 2. My father is on the verge of death. He's scheduled for open-heart surgery in about a month, and suddenly, my family wants me back in their lives. But the way they pulled me in hurts even more. My mom and sister didn't have the courage to reach out to me directly. Instead, they went behind my back and tried to manipulate my wife, begging her, Beta, come see your parents, when their real intention was to drag me to see my father. I spent days fighting with my wife, turning over the question in my mind, how could she forgive parents who had cast me out so coldly? Only just yesterday did she finally reveal the truth. It was never about her visiting her own family, it was mine. She confessed that she just didn't want me to live with the regret of not seeing my father, that this might be the last chance to ever see him. She was afraid I would one day resent her if I didn't go. But the thing is, I already lived that grief once. The day they threw me out, it felt like they had died. I kept trying, time after time, to make contact, to fix things. Every time, all I got was rejection and insults. Until I turned 30, I had nothing of my own. I was painfully lonely, but I poured myself into my parents and my sister. I sacrificed everything for them, even going so far as to hide my relationship for 2 years because I didn't want to disrupt the so-called happy family my sister had with her husband. I carried the guilt of being with her husband's sister. I thought, when the time was right, they would understand. But when I finally dared to choose my own happiness, they left me. When my girlfriend became pregnant and her family tossed her out for refusing an abortion, I stood by her. I begged my parents for shelter, for support. That was the moment they truly turned their backs on me. They accused me of abandoning them for her, and told me she would eventually abandon and betray me. They were wrong. It was the other way around. My father slapped me. They abandoned me when I was about to become a father myself. I was shattered. Depression swallowed me whole. I kept reaching out, hoping for even a sliver of reconciliation. Every single attempt was met with a door slammed in my face. So I let go, finally, and rebuilt myself from nothing. It wasn't easy, but now I have my own family, and we're happy. My parents had years to open their hearts to me when it mattered. They chose never to. Now, only now, when my father's heart is literally failing, it's somehow open. What do they think I'm supposed to do with that? When his heart was strong, it was stone. That's something I can't forget. My wife says she'll still visit. She hasn't forgiven them either, but she believes a dying man deserves the chance for closure. Maybe she's stronger, or kinder, than I am. As for me, I feel nothing for them anymore. The son they hope to recover, the one who longed for their love, died years ago. So no, I'm not flying back to play the dutiful son. My real family is right here, the ones who never abandoned me. I could have bowed my head as a son to a father, but never as a father whose fatherhood was so cruelly rejected. When I needed them most, they turned me away. I've learned who my real family is, and I will not betray them now. Update 3. I married my wife without her parents' blessing. For 5 long years, there was nothing, no calls, no visits, not a whisper from her side of the family. Now, after all this time, we returned to India for some work, and they knew we'd be back. Deep down, I hoped things might finally be civil. But I was wrong, painfully, unmistakably wrong. Her parents invited my wife and our daughter to their Ganesh Puja. Me? Left out, like I never existed. My little girl wrapped herself around my leg, her eyes brimmed with tears, desperate, pleading, "Why can't Papa come?" How do you tell a child her own Nana Nani don't want her father in their home? I couldn't. My wife stood by me, refusing to go without me, so she did the only thing she thought was fair, sent our daughter alone. Somehow, this became my fault. According to them, if my wife didn't want to go without me, the burden was on me. I was supposed to swallow my pride, slip into the house uninvited, blend into the background, and watch while they laughed and celebrated with my little girl as if I was invisible. The final insult came from my brother-in-law. He smirked and cracked, "She's too beautiful to be yours." The whole room erupted in laughter. Everyone, except me. Is this what my daughter's paternity is to them? A joke? I couldn't take it. I stared at them, as calm as I could manage, and told them if they can't respect me as her father, there's no reason for me to put up with their disrespect. I walked out, leaving behind their sneers, their whispers. Now I'm the Kamina, the villain. My wife is under fire simply for standing by her husband, for choosing what's right. All I ever asked for was the bare minimum, some basic decency, some acknowledgement that I am my daughter's father. Is that really too much? I'm not begging for their love or approval. Just a shred of respect, for me, for our child. Maybe next time, I should just wait outside like a driver, since that seems to be the only place they see me fitting in their world. Sometimes, it feels like the only crime I committed was marrying their daughter without asking first, the same thing half of India does. But somehow, only I get treated like a criminal. What happened between my wife and me might have happened sooner than it should have. But it would have happened anyway: marriage, a child, a family. Yet, just because it happened the wrong way, we wear the label of a mistake forever. Update 4. The house was lit like a festival and my daughter's slippers were by the door. A smell of camphor and ghee and something I can't name made me sick to my stomach. We knocked. A maid opened and froze. My wife called out for our child, no answer. Her mother appeared with that tightly polite smile that isn't a smile. "She's sleeping," she said. "Don't wake her." "Wake her," I said. They made us stand in the foyer like delivery boys while the family collected itself in the hall, all those familiar faces lined up like spectators at a match. My brother-in-law smirked like he'd been practicing. My daughter came out in a sparkly lehenga and heavy anklets, eyes red, tiny hands sticky from prasad, and then I saw it. Her ears were pierced, bright studs, fresh blood at the lobes, the edges swollen. I don't know if my face changed, but something in the room did. My wife's voice went small, Like a child. You pierced her ears without asking us? Her mother waved it off like a mosquito. All girls get it done. She cried a little, then ate ladoos. Don't be dramatic. My daughter reached for me and I picked her up, just to feel her heartbeat against mine. She buried her face in my neck like a baby and whispered, "It hurt, Papa." Nana said, "Be brave." My wife was shaking. "Who gave you the right to touch our child's body without our consent?" Her father snorted. "Our blood. Our right." I walked to the door. "We're going home." They moved to block it. My brother-in-law stepped in front of me like a guard. "You can leave. She stays. We'll send her in the morning. She's calm now, don't agitate her." Calm. That word. My daughter's fingers dug into my collar. I said it once, quietly. "Move." He didn't, and I did the thing I had promised myself I would never do in front of my kid. I raised my voice. The walls shook. The neighbors heard. Maybe that was my mistake, or maybe it saved us. Because within 10 minutes, there were 2 constables in the hall, tugged in by the gate watchman and the echo of our shouting. "Domestic matter," they said. "Family," they said. Everyone started talking at once. Fingers pointed at me. "He's unstable. He's controlling. He hit our son." Lies slid out like oil. My wife didn't even look at them. She showed the officers our child's passport, her birth certificate, our marriage certificate, photos of birthdays and doctor's visits, the little boring proofs of ordinary life that matter when truth suddenly has to wear a badge. She said, very clearly, "My daughter goes home with me." A female constable stepped close and peered at the studs. She asked my daughter, not any of us, "Did you want this?" My child shook her head, a tear slid down onto my shirt. That was the moment. The constable changed her tone. She told my in-laws, in that tired, practical voice you can't argue with, that piercing a minor without parental consent is assault, and if we wanted, we could lodge a case. She told them children aren't possessions to be hidden in bedrooms when their parents ring the bell. We walked out with our daughter, her head on my shoulder, my wife beside me with her hands clenched, and behind us came a chorus of drama. Western brain. Ungrateful. The female constable caught up at the gate and pressed a card into my wife's palm. "If they try this again, call me first." She didn't look at me, she looked at my daughter. "Beta, you're going home." I wish I could say that was the end. It wasn't. That night, after we cleaned the blood crust from her ears and she fell asleep on my chest like she used to when she was a baby, my phone vibrated with an unknown number. I should have ignored it. I didn't. It was my sister. No hello, no pretense. Just a photo of my father on a hospital bed, gray and small, tubes everywhere, mouth half open around a pipe. A voice note followed, my mother's voice raw and old, not the queen I knew. "He's going in early. Please. For 5 minutes. I don't know the name of the muscle that broke in me. I just know I put my daughter gently on her pillow, I kissed my wife's hair, and I drove. I told myself I would park outside, look up at the ICU windows, and come back. I told myself I would be a stone. But grief is a stupid animal. It sits. The ICU corridor was cold and bright. The nurse at the desk had the calm of people who've seen everything twice. My mother looked smaller than I remembered. She didn't touch me. She said, "He asked for you." She said, "You don't have to forgive us." She said, "Just stand there so he can see your face." They let me in for a minute. He was an old man, not my father, not the man with a stone heart, not the hand that hit. An old man with watery eyes. He tried to reach for me and the line tugged and he grimaced and I did something I never did when I was his son. I took his hand and held it so gently that he could pretend he was strong. He tried to talk and the tube hissed and he couldn't, but the nurse produced a small notepad already on his chest, smudged from use. He had written 2 sentences in a shaky hand. "I am sorry I chose pride over you. Break the chain." He wouldn't let go of my fingers. I stood there for 60 seconds and they felt like a full childhood. When the nurse tapped my elbow, I left. In the hallway, my mother slid a thin, sealed envelope into my hand like contraband. "He wrote it last week," she whispered. He kept it under his pillow. He said if you came, you should read it only later. I didn't trust my legs. I didn't trust anything. But I walked out without looking back. I sat in the car and stared at the envelope and I did not open it. In the morning, my wife and I took our girl to a pediatrician to check for infection. She was brave, but when he touched her ear she flinched so hard I had to leave the room to breathe. We bought clip-ons and she giggled in the mirror with 2 ridiculous plastic stars that didn't hurt. My wife tucked the policewoman's card into a zip pocket of her handbag and looked like a general planning a war. We were set to fly back in 3 days. We decided we were done. India could keep its blessings and its wounds. We would go home. That evening, a legal notice arrived at the hotel. My name, my wife's name, my daughter's name spelled wrong. It was from my in-law's lawyer, accusing us of creating emotional distress, of defamation, of interfering with the child's cultural rights. They demanded a neutral DNA test to settle long-standing doubts and to ensure the child's rightful lineage. The language was oily and careful and filthy. My wife went very still, then she laughed, a sound like glass. "Neutral," she said. "Like their hearts." I wanted to tear the paper into confetti and feed it to Ganesh himself. Instead, I folded it and put it next to the unread envelope for my father. Two objects that could change nothing and everything. We didn't respond. We packed. At the airport, the line moved in those irritating short bursts and our daughter was sleepy and hungry and we were already planning the first meal back home. At the immigration counter, I handed over 3 passports with the relief of a man leaving a haunted house. The officer looked, typed, paused. Typed again. He frowned. He picked up a phone. "Wait there," he said. The glass door to the side opened and a woman in a navy sari, immigration insignia bright on her shoulder, asked us to step in. Her voice tried to be kind. "There's a lookout circular on the child," she said, like telling us the weather. "Filed by maternal grandparents, claiming she's being taken out of the country without consent. We need to verify custody." My wife reached for my hand under the table and I realized it was the same instinct her daughter had when she was scared. The officer asked for documents. We gave everything. Marriage certificate. Birth certificate. Copies of consent forms for passports. Photos of us coloring on the floor. The female constable's card, absurd and useless in this fluorescent light, ended up on the pile too, as if goodwill could be notarized. It went on for an hour. Calls were made. My in-law's number was not reachable. The officer kept saying, "Procedure, sir. You understand." I could hear planes like distant oceans, leaving with other people's children and other people's troubles. My daughter fell asleep on my lap. My wife's jaw was tight enough to crack teeth. Then the side door opened again and the universe played a private joke. The female constable from that night walked in, hair tucked back, sorry the same Navy. She looked almost amused to see us. "I thought you'd be smarter than to try this here," she said, not to me, to the immigration officer, phrased like an inside fight. She took one look at our kid, lifted a brow at the studs, and dialed a number from memory. Somebody senior answered. She spoke quickly, coolly, about the station diary, about an attempted retention of a minor, about piercing without consent, about the fact that the mother is standing here and the father is on the birth certificate and there is no court order anywhere in the world that says otherwise. The hold was lifted. Not with drama, not with apology, just a stamp and a small nod. "You can go," the officer said. "I'm sorry for the inconvenience." The constable gave my wife a look I can't name. Respect? Solidarity? Warning? "Be careful," she said. "They've made friends in places." She touched my daughter's head like a blessing. "Next time, clip-ons." At the gate, while our girl pressed her nose to the window to count planes, I finally opened my father's letter. It was 4 lines. Not poetry, not manipulation. Just a man trying to make a shape out of regret before the dark. He told me he was wrong. He told me he was afraid of losing the family he built and in the fear, he lost the only son he had. He wrote my daughter's name correctly. He wrote, "Tell her Nana said sorry for not knowing her." He wrote, "If I go, let the last thing you remember of me be that I tried too late, but I tried." I folded it back into the envelope and put it in my pocket. I didn't cry. I didn't forgive. I just felt something like a lock click open in a part of me I've kept barricaded for years. On the plane, my wife fell asleep with her head on my shoulder and our daughter drooled on my shirt and I watched the lights of the city peel away beneath us, all those homes with their own tiny wars. I thought of studs, of letters, of women in navy saris who do their jobs even when families don't. I thought of chains, the invisible ones and the ones we break. I don't know what comes next. I know we're going home. I know I will never again hand my child to anyone who believes love is a right that comes with blood and not with behavior. I know there's a piece of paper in my pocket that I can't bring myself to throw away, and for the first time in years, I know one more thing: fear and love can look the same on the surface. Underneath, you always know which one you're acting from when it's time to choose. Update 5. Jet lag had its teeth in all of us. The apartment smelled like stale airport air and the basil plant on the kitchen sill we'd forgotten to water. Our daughter kicked off her shoes and crawled under the dining table like a cat. My wife put the kettle on and leaned her forehead to the cabinet and didn't say anything. I took the envelope out of my pocket, the one with my father's handwriting, and set it on top of the fridge magnets like it was another bill we were going to ignore. For one night, I wanted to pretend we had outrun everything. In the morning, there was a knock that wasn't a neighbor's knock. 2 people in soft shoes with laminated badges. They said their names gently and the word that made my stomach drop: safeguarding. An anonymous report. Words like controlling, volatile, coercive. Claims that a child had been subjected to a cultural procedure without consent by the father. In their mouths, the lie came out clean. In my head, I could still smell camphor. They asked to see where our daughter slept. They asked if they could speak to her alone for a few minutes. My wife and I stood in the hall holding hands like teenagers outside a principal's office. I could hear our girl's small voice in the bedroom, the pattern of a story, the way she says actually when she's trying to be brave. The social worker came out and asked for the pediatrician's name, the school, our GP. We gave them everything, all the boring proofs again, the last well visit, the vaccination card, the school newsletter with her sticker next to the class bunny. They looked at the studs and the redness had faded to a mean pink. The social worker's mouth tightened. She didn't look at me when she asked, "And who did this?" My daughter piped from the bed, without being asked twice, "Nana." It hurt. Papa said clip-ons. The social worker scribbled and I watched the pen dig into the paper like insistence. They left with a polite pamphlet and the tone people use when they're not supposed to take sides but do. We'll close this if everything checks out, she said. If anything worries you, you call us, not the internet. Soft shoes out the door. We breathed like people who have been underwater and faked being okay. While the door was still swinging back from the latch, my phone buzzed. A message. My sister. It was 4 words, nothing dramatic, no devotional sticker attached. He's gone. 6:13. I don't know where I went for 10 minutes. Balcony? Bathroom? The sink was running when I came back, and my wife was holding our daughter on her hip and buttering toast with the knife wrong. I told them. Our daughter blinked up at us like we had said a word she didn't know. Where did he go? She asked. To the place where people don't hurt anymore, my wife said, and didn't look at me. I called my mother. The line made that empty international click and then her breath was there, close like she was standing in our kitchen. She didn't cry. She didn't mention all the years we flung across oceans at each other. He had the letter? She asked. Yes, I said. My voice surprised me by being kind. I read it. She said nothing for so long I thought the call had dropped. Then, light a dia for him there. I will light one here. That will be enough. She didn't ask me to come. Maybe that was love, the only kind left between us. We put a tea light in a steel cutlery and our daughter drew a circle on the floor with her finger because she's seen my wife make rongoli in a rented kitchen with salt and turmeric when she misses home too much. We said nothing big or holy. I told my father the truth. I said I would do what he wrote. I would break the chain. I would stop confusing love with fences. I would stop mistaking fear for duty, then prove it, my wife said that night when the house finally exhaled and the city outside went quiet. She wasn't challenging me. She was tired. She was right. All my vows are loud, the real work is quiet. The next morning, I didn't send angry emails to India or craft speeches in my head for people who would never listen. I called a family lawyer here. He was the kind of man who had seen every version of our story and could still make compassion sound like a contract clause. We sat at a small table and we wrote our lives onto pages that will outlast panic. A consent order for travel that requires both our signatures. Emergency contact lists. Who can collect her from school? Who cannot step onto school grounds? My wife's parents' name spelled correctly in the section that reads, individuals barred from unsupervised contact. We filed a report, not a screaming case, not a war, just a record at our local police station, an incident in India where a minor's ears were pierced without parental consent. Dates, places, badge numbers. The female constable's name went on that form too, like a thin blue thread connecting chaos to order. At school pickup, our daughter ran into my legs like a bowling ball and told me, with the relief of someone who's been carrying a complicated secret, that her teacher said, your body belongs to you. Ears included. There was a poster by the Cubbies the next day, new as wet paint, my body, my rules. It was both silly and huge. I watched my child trace the letters with her finger. Her cheeks were pink. Not from studs. From running. From being 4. I was supposed to go back to work. Sit under office lights. Pretend to care about numbers that pay for the roof over our heads. An email waited for me like a test I hadn't revised for, HR forwarding an anonymous concern about my temper and domestic situation. A line about duty of care. I wrote back a single sentence and attached what I needed to attach. The travel order signed that morning, the social worker's note that there was no current child protection concern, the pediatrician's note. I didn't perform. I didn't bleed on the page. They wrote back a quiet okay and a line about taking the time I need. The world did not end. It is ridiculous what relief feels like. In the afternoon, my phone rang with an Indian number I recognized like a bruise. The female constable. The line crackled like an old movie and then her voice, oddly fond. I heard you got out, she said. They tried the station again with the kidnapping story. I told them to go to court. I will be transferred next week. Too much drama for the new DCP. If you ever need to put something on paper, send it to me before I go. At least it will be legible. I thanked her in a way that didn't embarrass either of us. Clip-ons? She asked, amused. Only stars, I said. She laughed and hung up. It felt like someone had stamped something somewhere that mattered. We went to therapy. Not together at first. Me. A white room with a plant that looked plastic and a woman with a soft cardigan and eyes that didn't flinch. I told her the greatest hits, the airport, the studs, the tube in my father's mouth. The word control hung on my shoulders like a wet coat. She didn't ask me why I loved my wife so much. She asked me what I'm afraid will happen if I stop guarding the doors. I said, they will take her. She said, so let's build doors that lock from the right side. It was the first time anyone had told me protection can look like trust plus paperwork, not just rage. At home, in the quiet that comes after a storm breaks and you realize your roof actually held, my wife took out her phone and showed me a flight search she'd had for months. Not to India. To a city 3 countries away. A course she wanted to do. 2 weeks before, I would have argued logistics and danger and all the invisible hands that pull at her when I'm not there. I looked at the screen and felt fear and love show me their separate faces. Go, I said. We'll make it work. I'll do mornings and bedtime and she'll wear stars and I'll send you pictures of every ridiculous outfit she chooses. My wife's eyes filled and spilled and she laughed and called me a liar. You'll coordinate her socks, she said. I will, I said, but I won't keep you from being who you are. That night, while our daughter snored like a kitten and drooled on my shoulder during a cartoon she refused to admit she was too sleepy to watch, I opened the envelope again. The ink had bled a tiny bit where his hand must have sweated with the effort. Break the chain. The words were ugly and shaky and perfect. I took out a pen and wrote underneath, in my own hand, in the same paper crumpling honesty, I am trying. The next day, a small box arrived addressed to my wife with no return address. No lawyer's seal, no stamp from anywhere familiar. My wife opened it with the wary hands of someone who expects a snake. Inside was a pair of tiny plastic star clip-ons. The cheap kind from a party bag. There was a note in my mother's handwriting. It was one line. For when you are ready to tell her about me without making me a monster. No apology. No pleading, just an old woman's attempt at a bridge made out of a toy. My wife looked at me, 1,000 expressions running through her like weather. She put the stars in our daughter's hair, not her ears, while she slept, one above each temple, ridiculous and perfect. In the morning, our girl caught sight of herself in the mirror and howled with laughter. I'm a star head, she yelled, and did 3 laps of the living room. We didn't tell her where they came from. Not yet. Not like that, but I slipped the note next to my father's letter behind a magnet and did not feel dirty about it. I don't know what we'll do about funerals and ashes and the way grief tries to draft you into rituals you don't believe in anymore. I don't know what my in-laws will try next or who they have tea with in offices with dusty files who owe them favors. I know this, my daughter's school now knows our passwords and our boundaries. The court here knows our signatures. The police here have our file, the constable there knows our names. My mother sent stars. My father sent a sentence. My wife booked the course. I learned the password to the daycare app and packed an extra cardigan because I always forget they nap in cold rooms. The house smells like doll again. The basil plant is upright. I thought breaking a chain would look like a dramatic blow. I shouted no. It turns out it looks like 100 small yeses made with a steady hand. Yes to paperwork. Yes to therapy. Yes to my wife walking into a room without me and coming back because she wants to, not because she has to. Yes to clip-ons and to a social worker's card in a kitchen drawer and to a letter that didn't fix anything but opened a lock anyway. Yes to fear sitting in the room without being allowed to drive. Last night, our daughter fell asleep with the plastic stars still in her hair. I took them out and put them on the bedside table like relics. My wife slid her feet under my leg the way she does when she's cold and too proud to get a blanket. In the dark, I said it again, out loud, to nobody and to everyone, the sentence that keeps the animal of grief from running the house. I am trying. And for the first time, trying felt like enough.